I'm pretty sure I'm live right now. Hello, world. If the world is listening, this is Black Wizard. And that is pronounced Black, BLACK, and Wizard, like a wizard, hence the wizard hat. I'm taking a moment to get some material together. I'm going to bring up my wife here. We don't really have anything planned for this. It's kind of ad hoc. So, hello.
Hi. Can you hear me? Is it? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi. Hi, husband. I don't think my mic is on. I think I can just hear me in the background.
No, I hear you. Go to your mic and cam settings and see if it's got your mic chosen under the
Okay.
settings, the gear at the bottom.
Yes. Mic. Yes, chosen. I don't know. Yes, chosen. I don't see it on here.
Yeah, I can hear you pretty loud and clear.
Okay. Well, maybe it's just me.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some stuff together. But I guess while I'm doing that, I'll kind of go over what brought us to this conversation topic, I guess. So we've been wanting to kind of enter into conversations with each other about this stuff for a while. We and by this stuff I mean manosphere topics. So we've been wanting to do that for quite some time, and just kind of give our take on it since we're married. And for whatever reason, the manosphere has moved from mostly MGTOW and IBMOR dominance, where things were a little more cerebral, to more red pill kind of talking points. And as a Black manosphere has kind of become the manosphere now. Relationships have become the center of the topic. I mean, relationships has always been the center of red pill stuff, but now it's more about like tradition, trying to obtain traditional relationships or leverage over the other person, that kind of thing. So I was on a stream a couple of days ago. I think it was a Sweet Melody Speaks stream, and I brought up the topic that a lot of people in the space kind of confuse sexual market value with the value that a person has as a human being, and how I didn't think that was true. And a lot of people in that panel, some pretty notable in the space. So it's not like I'm just pulling this out of the ether or the comment section like a lot of people tend to think is going on. But yeah, so a lot of people in the panel were kind of like, yeah, her value is what she brings, sexually. And I'm like, word. so this is kind of a challenge to that idea that someone's value is strictly based on their sexual market value, particularly women, because that's what we talk about in this space a lot. But it applies to men too. Especially when it comes to like the new high value man kind of perspective that people are taking on nowadays. People kind of attribute their own personal value to whether they can be high value or not, is something else I noticed. But maybe that's a topic for another day. Yeah, you want to kind of give your take on this while I scrounge around for some information here?
Sure. I personally well, I mean, I notice that that is actually a thing that people tend to um base, you know.
She's nervous.
I li- I I don't normally come up on panels and talk or things like that. I'm normally just listening. So
Yeah, see, y'all got to understand if you are listening that she's my litmus test on normal people. So, you know, I'm not normal, and she is. So, when she's not used to coming up on here and talking or stuff like that. So, um, yeah, so she's a little nervous right now.
um yeah, I mean, I guess it's more so just I don't necessarily have a specific, like, I notice that it is true that people do base someone's sexual market value on, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry, honey. I'm not quite sure what the
Well, what do you feel about it?
Okay. Okay, what I feel about it is different. Thank you for taking me in that direction. I'm more of a feeler. Um, I feel like it's sad that people do, you know, base a person's being a person off of their sexual market value. I think it's a very sad thing. Yes.
Do, do you think that it is two different things?
I mean, I feel like if men are the ones who judge it, then no.
I guess.
It's theirs to say whether it is or not.
Well, okay. So, and that's kind of the. Um, oh, do me a favor when you're not speaking, hit the mute at the bottom.
Okay.
Right. So I guess that's my crux with it. So one of the people on the panel, I don't remember who, but we started talking about this stuff, and they started going into, oh, now we're getting into my truth versus, what is reality kind of thing. But when they made that judgment, they basically made that judgment based on, I guess they were calling society the real truth, and your truth is relative to what society believes. So take for example, most people think that, even though beauty is relative, um, between from person to person, there's still like a uh, somewhat of a standard of who considers what beautiful, I guess, nationwide, even though there is a, you know slight variance on what we believe is beautiful from person to person. So I guess that to I guess draw those parallels, it would be like saying, because most of society believes that um, these features are beautiful, then the reality of the situation is that these features are beautiful. Um, and to a degree, that's true. But to the degree that it's not is where, I think people are getting confused. Like, where society doesn't judge well, society does judge the truth, but society does not make the truth. The truth is like an outside factor that society is kind of like adapting to. The truth is more like the environment. So, um, AS Casey, what's up? Um, yeah, we're up here talking about people kind of conflating sexual market value and human value. So, kind of going over that here with my wife. You want to say hey?
Hello.
Yeah, she's a real person.
Yes, I am. I'm just really not, I've never been on here to speak before, so still getting used to it.
Yeah. So let me bring up some. Let me bring up at least what I have here. It says share screen. I'm making sure all my shit straight before I share my screen with y'all. You know what I'm saying? All right, here we go. All right. You can see I got my little diagram here. I wanted to go a little bit more in depth with everything, but this is kind of the diagram that I use to understand the truth of situations. So you've got this outside dotted line representing, I guess, you can use this in any situation. So let's say this is the environment. This is like this outside dotted line represents the unknown factors of the environment. And then inside you've got human understanding as a bold line that's not dotted. And it's not dotted because when people bring up ideologies through facts, they tend to say that this is what it is, even though they're really drawing upon this outside line here. So let's say this is me. This inside bold line is me, and as I go through my life and I'm constantly learning, I'm pulling from the environment around me. So the more I learn, and the more this circle expands, the more this dotted line would expand too. Because the more I know, the more I would figure out that I don't know. Applying this to this is our first stream together, by the way. Applying this to like what we're talking about today. So people tend to believe that someone's, I guess, their sexual marketplace value is their value. And let's say that this is who you are. This dotted line out here is who you are, who you represent as a human being. And then the what you offer sexually or your sexual marketplace value would be the inside circle here. So you can see why I'm saying they're different. They're not the same. While your sexual market value does contribute a lot to what makes you valuable as a person, or at least it contributes somewhat to what makes you valuable as a person. It is not the entirety of your value as a person. And this is the contention that I have with the manosphere when they bring up sexual marketplace value. They tend to say that if you like, if a woman is a 5 or below, then she doesn't offer me anything. She doesn't bring anything to the table. She's not valuable as a person. They don't say as a person, but they kind of imply that last part. Yeah, and you know, I take issue. I take a little bit of an issue with that, mostly because it's not true. But yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent there. What are you thinking over there?
I'm thinking that what you just showed was pretty interesting. You haven't showed that to me yet, so I'm not. Oh no! Hello? But I'm talking. Can you hear me now?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Having some technical difficulties. Hold on.
Oh gosh. Hello? Okay. This is so funny. Okay, so you were wondering what I thought about the what you just showed and stuff like that. I'd never seen it before. You just showed it to me. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it. So yeah, going on to these panels and hearing a lot of what people are talking about. I don't know. There's one point where I used to kind of, I wouldn't say I identified with red pill philosophy, but I did identify there was a lot of stuff in that I saw as valuable within it, or that I believed was true. But as I guess as MGTOW kind of fell out of the place that was running the red pill space, and YouTube added the ability to stream, I noticed so that just kind of open the doors for just anybody to make whatever content that they wanted. I noticed the content moved away from what was originally conceived as red pill and blue pill philosophy, where like a blue pill guy was kind of somebody who was trapped by certain instincts, or what was considered to be gynocentrism at the time. And they move, and the way that the government, or other, I guess, larger corporate factors used gynocentrism as a means to have men work for the state on behalf of women, and how red pill philosophy then was about waking up so that you could have some agency over your own life. And now that we have this, open panel, everybody just kind of gets on and says what they want, and PUAs kind of moved into the space and have taken over um, as the I guess talking heads for red pill philosophy. What I've noticed is, and this is true with a lot of PUAs, but um, PUAs really are about making a profit. I remember in like 2008 when I first picked up a PUA book, and they were running all the seminars on the in California, and the forums and stuff like that, and they are all about turning a profit, and that is what the space in YouTube has become now, I've noticed. So it's like the truth doesn't really matter anymore, and now it's like the truth takes a backseat to the making money, which is something that we feared and that we talked about a few times on, I think, Bernard Riley's channel. As I think Obsidian, Platinum Elite, even Kevin Samuels, we were on there and we're talking about the direction that the Black manosphere should take as far as making money, or presenting the truth, or what have you. But yeah, so now I'm noticing that a lot of these people who say they're red pill aren't really red pill as I remembered it when I got into the space like 6 years ago. It's more like they're red pill. I don't know how to say this other than in name only. So like, um, red pill philosophy. In fact, hold on. I had something here from an old red pillar called Razor Blade Candy, and he pretty much sums up what I was thinking about this. Hold on. Let me bring that up in a second. What were we talking about earlier that got your juices going, by the way, with the space and everything? Well, never mind. Hold on. We could benefit from some like music or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
That would be kind of cool.
Some Lady Gaga. I don't know.
Lady Gaga, what?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
They don't want to hear no Lady Gaga.
I don't care what they want to hear.
Dang.
Let's see. Got the video. All right. Boom. Share. Something. Window. All right. Go ahead and play this. Wait, can they hear the sound? Can you hear the sound when I play this? Hold on. You hear that? You hear anything? No. Well, damn. How do I get it to play the sound? No. Play the damn sound. You hear it now? Man, that's some bullshit.
Bullshit indeed.
This is what I get for not messing around with this beforehand.
It's our first cast. It's okay. We figuring it out. It'll get better.
Well, let's try that. Share screen. Share screen. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. All right, here we go. You still don't hear it? Man, that's that bullshit, bro. I think I just got to share my whole screen and share the audio. Got it. All right. We got a little bit of inception going on over there. I'll do that.
Corporate world. And also, as a reminder.
Yes.
Gynocentrism. It is a word every MGTOW/red pillar is familiar with. So why am I making a video explaining gynocentrism? Because it is the most important concept in the men's movement. Without a full understanding of gynocentrism, our movement is nothing but a conservative reactionary movement bellyaching about feminism, insisting a woman's place is relaxing at home while men fight tooth and nail to survive in the rat race of the corporate world. And also, as a reminder to all the MGTOW and self-proclaimed red pillars who either don't get it, or have forgotten it, the wiki entry.
That was really what I was trying to explain. Is that, hello, I'm listening, peace. Is that without the, I guess, what people, I guess people call it the gynocracy now, since the Black manosphere is taken over, but without the consideration of gynocentrism, the red pill space becomes a place that's not about red pill philosophy or ideology anymore. It just becomes a movement. It just becomes a quasi conservative movement, like a tradcon movement, belly aching about feminism, and that is exactly what it has become. At least as far as I can see, where a lot of dudes are just saying basically, women belong back in the kitchen. So, and it's interesting because you hear the, I guess the language from a lot of red pillars talking about sign language, shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. used by women toward men to, I guess, shame them back to what would have been called before the plantation. But uh, now you see guys using this kind of sign language toward women. That you see them using it in the form of rating of the rating scales of their beauty. You see them using it in the form of talking about submission and all that stuff. It's like it's become less of a movement about realizing the truth around you and more of a dogma that people are using to kind of bash people over the head with it. You got any thoughts about that?
Not in particular. I'm just trying to make sure I'm following. So you're saying that you're gathering that what the red pill community is doing now is trying to shame women into, I guess, the old ideals. Is that what you're saying? I'm just trying to make sure I'm following.
Not necessarily. Like, I wouldn't say that the entire point of red pill philosophy right now is to shame women into the ideals, but I will say that there seems to be a sector that I'm recognizing that does do that, and they do that under the guise of, like, they'll say, they're being logical or they're using reason or what
Mm.
have you. But they do that at the same time that they say, if these women don't bring any value, they'll say, you don't have value if you're not rated at such and such a level on the social, I guess, social hierarchy as far as sexual value is concerned. So not the whole ideology, but I've noticed a very prevalent amount of it is doing that.
Do you feel like that voice? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Huh, I'm not sure what's going on. I'm unmuted. And it's saying that it can.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I can't remember what I was gonna say now. I'm sorry, honey.
Damn it,
I'm
man.
sorry. But okay, all right. I think I got it now. So do you think that the voice of the people? No, I lost it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, babe.
No problem. SKC says anti-family. I guess the anti-family ideologies lead to destabilization of society, which is good for no one. And I guess a lot of even when it was mostly MGTOW leading the red pill space, it was they were pretty much at a point where they were like, let it burn. So, I mean, you're not wrong. But yeah, the anti-family stuff. I guess SKC, what are you trying to say? What are you getting at? You say that to say what? You want to come up here? Actually. All right, I just invited SKC up, so he should be up here in a second, and we will see what he's talking about here. I think I got the gist of where you're going. I just want to make sure. There he is. I'm gonna add him on. Hello.
Hey, what's going on, BQ? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm just sitting here relaxing with the wife and listening in and seeing what you got to say for your first stream.
Yeah, I don't really have a format. I was just or I do have a format in my head. I just didn't have time to like bring it to fruition. So I'm just kind of freeballing it right now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, that's the beauty of it. That way you can get the hang of it and um, be able to play around with a few things and go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on a panel with Sweet Melody Speaks a couple days ago, and it was like a free open panel, and they were talking about like just bring up a topic, and I was like, I want to talk about how I guess a lot of red pillars see sexual market value as the only value that a person has. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like they'll say a lot of red pillars will say like if she's not if she can't have children, then like they won't say that, but they'll say like they'll imply that like if children like a woman's value is how many children she can bring to a man's legacy kind of thing.
It's a you know, it's a weird conversation because there's a young man that I wouldn't say we mentor, but we kind of help out from time to time with different things. And I'll just tell you this short story. When I first
Okay.
met him, um, he was on this whole thing of, oh man, I don't want a traditional life. I may have two wives and all this type of stuff. So I was like, okay, if that's what you believe, you're a young man and you go about your life or whatnot. I don't think that it's I don't think that it would be viable in this day and age, but do your thing. Well, years down the line have passed, and now he's pining for a more traditional married life, like my wife and I. And he was on the whole red pill thing, and MGTOW and all this other stuff. But one thing that he eventually came full circle to understand is that yes, you can talk all the stuff about logic, you can talk all the stuff about using rationale, but you're still a human being with your own feelings, your own emotions, and those things were being he wasn't finding satisfaction
Exactly.
ultimately on that side of things. And uh, I mean, personally,
No,
I just think that if a person is logical, they have to understand that going through life and trying to lop off those emotional ties as if they're meaningless is illogical.
exactly. Logic will just bring you back to the circle, back full circle if you're really trying to seek the truth and
Hmm.
self-satisfaction. It'll really bring you back and say, well, these emotions are here for a reason. So
Yeah.
me acting like emotions are useless are only hurting me in the long run because like I'm still feeling it. So it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, there's other questions that come up from time to time. The hardest of the hard type of what they call red pill guys and all this other stuff. They'll they'll say that they're giving this information out. And one question that I like to ask is, well, why do you feel the need to give this information out? Many of them will say, "Well, I'm trying to help other, guys and young dudes or whatnot." I'm like, okay, well, why do you care about them?
Yeah.
And now you can't give a logical answer for that. That's an emotional answer as to why you care.
Yeah, and now I guess I've noticed this obfuscation where they won't say things. They'll say things like, "That's not emotion. That's a passion," or something like that. It's like, well, do you know? I mean, where does passion come from, though?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Even in conversations with people when they, sometimes they'll talk about sports and stuff, and you'll have athletes that will tell people, it's an emotional game,
Hmm.
and part of the game is to hone those emotions and align them in order to achieve your goal or focus them rather.
Yeah,
Will shouldn't the same thing be in life?
yeah. I mean, a good coach would even argue that a player that just approaches a game with like a strictly cold calculated kind of thing and they don't have any passion or any emotional investment into the game it's not somebody you actually want to coach because you're not going to win any games like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not even somebody that you want to play with.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I mean, the
The-
weird thing is that a lot of times the emotional side of these conversations don't want to be fully developed or dealt with, and only certain types of emotions are seen as good, particularly anger.
Anger, yeah. Anger, red pill rage, is definitely something that's acknowledged. But other than anger, you don't really hear. And if you think about it, like from what we know about Black culture and how Black culture is permeated. I mean, for a dude to be angry as a Black dude makes like you're allowed that one. So you know what I'm saying. Like as far as our culture is concerned, culturally speaking, you're allowed to be angry as a dude. But when you start getting into like, all right, how do you really feel though? Because even I guess in most psychological fields, like when they start talking to you about what makes you angry, there's usually like fear is usually the underlying source of where anger comes from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like usually you're angry because you're afraid of something and you're just trying to deflect it away.
yeah. I was working on like on a small project, personal project, where I love to design and work with things. My wife loves crafting stuff, but you've ever seen a color wheel?
Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking about constructing something like that, but for emotions to
What's
show.
funny?
Uh-huh.
That exists.
See, I need to see one of those and take a look at it, um, and I think it would be good for conversation in general.
Yeah, let me bring it up real quick.
Okay.
Um, here we go.
What is the opposite of anger, babe?
There we go. You see that?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of small, but I see it.
Uh, did that
I
change
need to.
anything?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm on my phone, so I have to take a look at it. Oh yeah, I can blow it up though. So
You can see where it's got the it's
Yeah.
got in the center. It's got the main emotions, and then it blows up from those emotions and goes on the outside. So you got sad, happy, angry, fearful, and then it kind of
Yeah.
blows up and expands out.
Yeah. Yeah. That isn't that's interesting. I've never seen it. Look at this, right? I've never seen that before. It's like a color wheel of various emotions. I have to, test it, but it's interesting that someone created one.
Yeah. What I think is really interesting about the red pill space, I don't want to say that it's something in me doesn't want to say that it's necessarily all the way like extreme, but there are some very extreme components in it. The one extreme component, and honestly, it's kind of contradictory to the original red pill philosophy, was that because I guess in the beginning it was all about not being used as a utility anymore and trying to make a path for yourself. And now it's like trying to figure out the maximum way for you to utilize yourself so that you I guess the accumulation of stuff means you have to become as useful to the world or to the nation that you're in or to society as possible. So you have to maximize how useful you are in order to get the relationships that you want, and not only to get those relationships, but to have leverage over them. So it's almost like the exact opposite of what red pill philosophy used to be. Whereas one was like seeking usefulness in yourself in the sense that bringing back your own, I guess, what I would say, quote, power, end quote, and recognizing that you're not a tool to be used. Now it's like, how do you use yourself in the most effective way so that you can leverage yourself in relationships? It's very strange. It's very strange and interesting, the turn that red pill philosophy has actually taken. Um, it's actually starting to kind of get on my nerves.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's starting to kind of get on my nerves.
I don't know. It's a mm, it I don't think that people see things fully logical, because if they did, once I was talking to Zero
Mm-hmm.
a while back, and we were having this conversation about logic, and if you look at it mathematically, it's basically an equation, and you can balance both sides and go from there. But certain ideologies that come up, um, I don't think that they truly look at the other side of the equation to try to have a balanced view.
No, I
And
don't think the point is to have a balanced view.
mhm,
Um, I think the point, well, and this is some other material that I was going to bring up for this stream as well. But what got me first into red pill philosophy was actually that I kind of sucked at talking to women. So I was the educated lame, didn't really have any luck with women. It I would even go, yeah, I would even go to the extent of saying like I was incel before I knew what incel was, um, or at least I would have considered myself incel then. So I was working in I was part of Geek Squad for so just to show you the extent of where I
no, no,
was.
I knew a dude that worked for that's at Best Buy, Geek Squad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Hmm.
actually in the warehouse where I guess the people at Best Buy would send the laptops and the computers where they would get fixed. I was in that warehouse fixing computers and things like that. So I was there and I was working with this guy and he's like, "Hey man, you heard this book?" And I was like, "What book are you talking about?" He's like, "It's called The Mystery Method," right? And that was kind of my introduction to Red Pill before I even knew what Red Pill was. And The Mystery Method was kind of a book that was an introduction to PUA. And of course, I had read books about, pickup lines and all kinds of craziness before. And I was like, man, this is going to be stupid. But when I picked it up, it really opened my world because it addressed women and social interactions in a way that I'd never thought of before. But I bring this up to say that back then, there was a really large emphasis on survival and replication. And basically, what they said was that if you don't act on your need to reproduce, then your genes will be, I think this is a quote, unapologetically weeded out of existence. And I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
I was like, that's true. So, and I say this to say that what a lot of people leverage red pill philosophy, it comes from that survivalist kind of mentality which is a fear-based mentality, where it's like, if I don't get myself into gear, then it's, I don't know. It's like, and do you watch Kevin Samuel stuff?
No, not really. I mean, I have nothing against the guy. I think that he's a great, business guy and whatnot. And yeah, I'm absolutely neutral. I have no for or against.
Yeah, same here. But the one thing that he talks about, or that he kind of brings up every once in a while, is that he says women are in a state of scarcity. They're acting out of a state of scarcity, and when they do that, they're making decisions that's inevitably hurting them. And I think that's what red pill philosophy is doing now, acting out of a state of scarcity and fear. And so you see these really exaggerated claims, and it's all. And when you act out of that state, you tend to try to protect yourself from what you believe is going to be harmful to you.
Are you trying to tell me it's a whole bunch of dudes sitting up in the cave?
What'd you say?
And being told stories about what's happening outside the cave?
What'd you say?
You trying to tell me that this is Plato's cave? Yeah, dudes that are looking at shadows on the wall, they're afraid of what's outside the
yes,
cave.
actually, yes. That's exactly what I'm saying. They're looking at the shadows, the fires behind them, and they don't understand what they're seeing, and they're actually projecting. Or I think a lot of people in this space are projecting the feelings that they have about themselves onto women, and women are doing the same. So it's like they see a lot of women as insecure, and it's basically everything that they're saying about women is how they actually view themselves, is what I've noticed. And I say that because like the similarities are actually are really strong. So you got guys who are using the sign language, like I talked about earlier, to try to leverage themselves into social position, to have hierarchical power over, I guess, women or people or whatever in their life, so that they can feel protected from whatever traumatic experiences that they may have had before. And I'm not saying that dudes are, cowering in corners from women or anything like that. I'm saying trauma in the sense that like something has happened. They took that as a lesson, and then they used all this logic to rationalize why these things happen to them, maybe through red pill philosophy or whatever. And then now that they have this logical, I guess, framework that they're working with, which is actually inspired by their fear. They use it to as an avoidance strategy to keep themselves protected from the things that they perceive will hurt them, which is, I guess, in this position would be women. And that's exactly what women are doing. They've been hurt by dudes in their life. They create this. They rationalize this social. They rationalize a social dynamic that they should have between men and that they should have with men, so that they can keep themselves protected from the bad guys. That like dudes are doing the exact same thing, and I think the not willing to acknowledge the emotional side of men is really what's keeping red pill philosophy from taking the next step. Because like on the one hand, we say we want to be recognized as human beings to women, but then at the same time, we don't recognize ourselves as human beings when we're like, when it comes to emotion, it's like, nah, I ain't emotional, nah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's that's that one part that I would never understand how anyone can. Okay, I, I guess I would put it like in the Star Trek analogy. Um, to me, it seems like you have all these individuals that are running around saying that they're logical, as if they are like Spock. But the community, as it were, is an emotional based culture. Just the very words that are used in order to um I, to me, like the community is like it's like the Klingon culture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very rough, gruff, very aggressive. Um, you know, there's all sorts of words that are used to defame people.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean the negative terminology is unlimited. So for people to come out of that or to be a part of that and to engage in it and then say that they're non-emotional, that's an oxymoron.
Yeah, exactly. Because to engage, you have to be emotional.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
you wouldn't even be recognized as part of the collective. No, seriously, you wouldn't even be recognized as part of the collective if you didn't engage in that way.
Yeah, yeah. It's the lingual is emotionally charged. It's designed to get an emotional charge out of individuals.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like I guess the dudes that engage in denial of their emotional vulnerabilities are doing so, well, obviously, so they don't feel vulnerable. Because I mean, if there's a way that you open yourself up, or at least acknowledge that you can be hurt, then especially in this space, when they talk about manhood and stuff, it's like, well, then I'm not a man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that, no, seriously, and that and that sounds like I'm just saying that off of cliche. But if you listen to enough people in this space, it's like when they start talking about how they got to alpha their way out of stuff, or when they start talking about what is an alpha male and everybody's obsession with trying to become alpha. It's like, but why though? Like when you start asking questions like, why do you need to be alpha? It's like, well,
I have a real problem with the terminology. I understand that there obviously will be a hierarchy. However, uh, those terms, man, they're linked to they're linked to pseudoscience.
Well, it's not just pseudoscience either. It's linked to, so going back to that diagram that I had up earlier where it had the dotted line on the outside and the solid line on the inside,
Uh-huh.
I guess the animals on this planet don't have a choice but to react the way that they react. They react out. All they can do is react. They cannot respond. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Correct.
but what makes a human being different is that we can respond. Now,
Right.
a lot of people don't, but we have the ability to do it. But so us just having the ability to respond, therefore makes the alpha beta model not very applicable to us because we can choose to do something else, whereas a wolf is acting based on something purely biological and genetic. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And that's the element that why I push towards the idea of it being pseudoscience, because it's not taking into consideration that humans have certain abilities that animals don't. And
No,
one is the choice, so far as restraint, forethought, planning. It's there's
no.
so many imagination. I mean,
Yeah, the biggest one is choice, honestly. And what's really interesting about the red pill space is, and logic will tend to do this, honestly. When you try to be extremely logical, it tends to boil things down into this or that. Like there's not an in between. And this is something I brought up before with how a lot of dudes in the space talk about accountability for women, and then when it comes to accountability for men, they employ the same tactics. But and I'll give you an example of that. So like they talk about women don't take accountability for their actions, and that's not something I need to go over with you. But but when it comes to men, let's say for the cheating aspect of relationships, they'll rationalize the cheating with, but I'm just biologically wired to do something like that. It's my biological imperative to spread my seed. Now it's like, well, yes, it can be logically determined that is a fact, but what that doesn't do is account into the equation your choice. So you're removing choice, so you're not held accountable to what you're doing. You see what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. It's a thing of, okay, now I can um, revert back to the animalistic uh, nature of things, back on that scale. Okay, but if that's the case, then what's the purpose about complaining about
About women at
society?
all. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
about women at all. Like, what are you complaining about? If you recognize that this is just your biological imperative, then obviously that means women are going to have biological imperatives as well.
yeah, and
And if
it's
it's
just
their
like
biological,
free for all jungle, right?
yeah, exactly. And if it's just their biological imperative, quote unquote, to use hypergamy or whatever mating strategy that is used that you see as unfair, then what's there to complain about? They're just going to do it because that's what they do. Like,
Right. So that's why I don't understand how the two mesh together, because I could see if you abandon the idea of, oh, everybody's just an animal and so forth. Okay, then abandon that. Then there needs to be a higher order. There needs to be societal norms, standards in place. But as soon as those standards are placed upon everyone, then you have individuals stating, "Oh no, I just want to go by the animal side of things." Like what is
yeah,
it?
yeah, and it's no, and here's the fucked up part too, right? It's the animal part only comes into play when it suits them.
Correct. It's a cop
So
out.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, well, you shouldn't. Well, if you're going to address society as though you're looking for wives, and you can't just sleep around with everybody like that. Like, because if everybody's doing that, then there are no wives. You see what I'm saying? Like
Right. Right.
the bachelor life is only can only be afforded to a very small segment of society. But if everybody's a bachelor, then like, I guess I'm saying that husbands and families give the leeway for bachelors to exist. If there are no husbands, or guys at least trying to go out and commit to long-term relationships, then there are no bachelors, because everybody's a bachelor.
Right. And then extrapolate that out, then you no longer have a functioning society.
Exactly. And it goes back to what you were saying, where you can only take red pill and satellite ideology so far. It all leads to anti-family for most followers, and it will, because and I think that's actually where we're at right now, is that most of the Black manosphere has always been very particular about relationships with women. It's been that way since the Black manosphere was created. It's what made the Black manosphere different than the actual bigger manosphere. The bigger manosphere was like, fuck them, we're done. But the but the Black manosphere there was always that segment in the Black manosphere that was like, let's try to figure out what to do. But it's interesting to have that mentality of, let's figure out what we can do, and then at the same time be like, but I'm just gonna have sex with anything that walks. It's like, well, if you're serious about this, the two stances that you have can't be the same. Like, you can't have both of those stances.
Yeah, that's the part that I really don't understand why people would be at odds with one another, with particularly guys, because in certain ways, in certain ways, all of them need each other.
No, it's true. We're human
Yeah.
beings. We all need each other.
Well, I was talking about the different ideologies for balance,
I see.
because if you are saying that society is getting to a point to where um, things are so imbalanced that you have people taking these extreme measures, well, the whole reason to take those extreme measures are to try to get things back to some sort of balance. Well, if you have no one who is willing to say, "Oh, okay, these are the extremes. Let me go back to the center of things," then you're gonna have perpetual chaos.
Yeah.
So it's like it will be. It seems like it would be leverage for both sides to say, "See, if you don't do like those guys are doing, then
Yeah.
this
And
is
it
gonna
just
be. This is what is gonna happen with these guys." You have these that are playing the leverage scene of. That's the example of, if you let it go too far, you're gonna have dudes that are gonna completely check out. So you better, those guys that are in the center, you better
yeah,
yeah.
and it seems like the guys that you would think, if the ideology was, I guess, what do you call that? Honest. If the ideology was a little more honest, then the guys you're talking about that are the examples would be the outliers that you would want to bring, that you would want to use as an example to say, hey, this is what happens. But instead, what we see happening, or at least what I see happening, is that those guys are used as the example to follow. So it's like, you got these guys that are on the fringe, is like, um, I'm just gonna have sex with anything I want, and then you got other guys that's like, you know what, yeah, and then everybody's like, yeah, let's do it. That makes sense. Like, it's like, but let's
Yeah,
get married too. It's like, what? What are you
yeah,
guys talking about?
it's weird. It's like I don't think that people see the full picture of things. Uh, ha, are you a sci-fi guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you seen Serenity?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, well, the bad guy in the movie, there's this famous scene in Serenity where the good guy is talking with the bad guy, and he's saying, "Hey, the people that sent you after me, you know that they're trying to create something that, or like a world that you're not going to be able to fit in
Yeah.
that world." And the bad guy says, "Of course I can't fit into that world. I'm a monster. I have to. My vision is to get rid of you so that that world can exist. We both don't deserve to be a part of it."
Wow.
And it's like that is what I don't think that the severest of the red pill people understand is that, yeah, if you go that route, what you're saying is that you don't deserve to be a part of society either.
Hmm.
Because ultimately, although you are reacting to certain things that are going on, your the way that you are moving disqualifies you from being a part of functional society as well.
Yeah, because it's like in order for a society to exist, there has to be some level of cooperation.
Yeah.
Um, but and I say some level, but I mean, let's be real. There has to be cooperation. Period. Uh, so, so if you are admitting that you are not willing to cooperate, um, then where do you? I guess where do you? With all these people that are talking about building Black legacy and building families and stuff like that, it's like where could you possibly see yourself in a picture where you're not willing to cooperate with anybody?
Yeah.
Like you say you want a family, but then your actions turn up as I'm just gonna fuck whoever I want to fuck. Like it's
Yeah, it's
but you know
people. I don't think people really understand that. I give another analogy. Batman is not a good guy.
right, he's a vigilante.
Yeah, yeah. Like, people don't understand that. Like, I think some people really look at Batman as a good guy. It's like, no, he's not.
And the funny thing is he understands he's not.
Yeah,
The way he approaches, like, he knows he's fringe, and then he finds other people who agree with his fringeness, and then it,
and
it maybe
he knows that that disqualifies him from leading a normal life.
yeah, and he's accepted that.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people that we're talking about have looked into the abyss. they
and
they haven't they haven't seen this out to its logical conclusion.
and that's the whole point of uh, well, from what I've seen, that's the whole point that Joker keeps pointing out to him is that, yeah, you're on the extreme side, on the other side of this, but you're just as extreme as I am. So both of us are outside of this circle and we're looking in at normal society, but we're not part of it.
And
We both have flaws.
how Batman agrees with this is that when Joker brings this up, even in the comics, Batman never argues with it. He just says nothing
Yep.
because he knows
Yep.
it's like the society they're creating they can't be a part of.
Hmm.
Bringing it back to the I guess the not the high value, but the sexual market value thing. What is your thoughts on that? Like, what's your thoughts on sexual market value versus human value? Do you think they're two different things, or do you think they're one and the same?
I don't really buy into um, I don't really buy into to all of that because um, I, I just don't see. Mm, I don't see the humanity in putting people in a marketplace. I did. There's this.
There
I
is no
know
humanity in
in.
that.
I know that there's economies and so forth that that do that. You know, you go into insurance and all that type of stuff. Yeah, it's done, but I I can't do it. Just
To
that's a line I can't cross.
your point, when the economy is talked, when you bring the economy into this, and you bring like insurance companies and corporations, they see human as capital. They don't see human as people, and that's obvious in the way that corporations treat people in general. Like the really big corporations, how they just kind of do what they want and they don't really care about the outcomes. You could argue right now, um, especially during the pandemic, how as corporations grow in power and try to leverage as much human capital as possible, more people end up suffering. You see what I'm saying? Like, just like how red pillars, a lot of red pillars are trying to leverage their positions, and they're creating this fringe. A lot of them are creating this fringe ideology that removes them from society and or destabilizes the family. Corporations do that to society. So you see the wealth gap widening. You see, you see, yeah, a lot of corporations, like let's say Facebook, for example, start banning the president of the United States from using the platform. It's like the more the more the leading looking at people as a number or statistic can only lead to um, destruction. That's the logical that's the logical conclusion. Like, the logical conclusion is that once you do that, you're not working with people anymore, you're working against them.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's whether people want to accept it or not, it's a destructive path. And yes, you can say that people are going under the guise of um, um, oh, what's the term for it? Survival.
Self-preservation.
Yeah, yeah, self-preservation, survival. Nevertheless, um, you get to a point to where, uh, it, and I mean, if your numbers dwindle down enough, you're gonna get to the point to where you definitely understand that cooperation is necessary for mutual survival. I don't think that people have understood that you're you're going down a path that of that way until you're going to get to a point to where, okay, we don't communicate then or cooperate. All parties go down. So it's like, why not just figure that out now through communicating wisely?
You still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went unstable there for a second.
Oh no. No, I'm just saying, you, it's going down a path of till you're getting to a point to where you have to cooperate with other parties. 'Cause if your numbers get too low, then you're not going to have a choice anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife got kicked out. I'm gonna bring her back up here though. Um,
What you laughing at, babe?
but yeah, it's like I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Yeah,
Man.
I guess the only it's really interesting. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. Um, this is one of the reasons why I think what we consider to be the black community is on a path to destruction that will inevitably wipe the majority of the black community out. Um, is because I think a lot of black culture is about denying your vulnerability. Um, and what's interesting about the vulnerability aspect of humanity is one, that's what makes us human, and two, you can't build relationships without vulnerability.
Yeah,
And when you can't build relationships, everything falls apart.
yeah. I think it's very easy. I'll look at that wheel again, but I think it's very easy to see within the community, as it were, the expressions on the negative side of all of that emotional wheel. Um, you can see all of that expressed in so many different ways, and those negative emotions are seen as strengths, whereas the positive emotions are seen as weaknesses.
Yeah, emotions like anger, both among men and women, are seen as a strength. You see that a lot in you see that a lot in women, especially. Well, I think you see it in both, especially, but you see it. I guess with women, it's kind of pervasive. So I guess from I guess what we would call the lower classes up to the higher classes, quote unquote, of people. Like you can with women, you can see the anger there. To different, I guess, gradations, but you definitely see it there. So like you walk down the street, for instance, I was walking with my baby, um, taking my baby on a walk. Had him strapped to the front of me. We just had the high knees. Skipping. It's sunny outside, right? Uh,
Hmm.
this woman. She looked African. Not sure if she was, but she's definitely black. So we're skipping by her. Normally, we go on these walks, we wave at people. No matter who we wave at, they wave back because little babies figuring out how to wave. Like, oh, it's a baby waving. And they wave back. So um, I, see this woman. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to teach him to say hi to people. So I'm like, hey, baby, say hi. And he lifts up his little pudgy soft hand, and he's like, he don't wave the correct way. Like the inside of his palm is at his face, and he's like doing the John Cena kind of thing.
Uh,
So, so so he's waving at her like this, and she no joke. She looks at us, she scowls, and then she like picks up her phone and puts it up to her ear and just keeps walking. I was like, damn,
oh wow.
to a baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. It's man.
I was like, damn. But that's considered. I say that to say that's considered a strength because it's like, um, just like I was talking about before with the survival, uh, self-preservation kind of thing. If you see men as a threat, um, and you have to protect yourself from dudes. Maybe she thought I was trying to holler at her or something, you know, while I got my baby on my chest or whatever. Who knows? But maybe she saw me as some kind of threat, and she's like, "Nah, I ain't giving this, you know, this motherfucker time of day. Fuck this dude." Like, you know what I mean?
That's the only thing that I could think that she thought, acting like that. Like, that's ooh.
Yeah, she was wild with it. I was like, man, if I was you know, if I was a lesser dude, that would have hurt my feelings. You know, man. I was like, the baby though.
Yeah, that is pretty weird. I think I'm start writing about this. This emotion wheel has really sparked my interest. I'm interested in kind of developing further the opposites.
Yeah, because I don't really think that goes over what is opposite to what. It just goes over what emotions exist, kind of thing.
Hmm.
But I'll be interested to see what you come up with that. Because if any community needs it, it's our community. You know.
He said, well, I don't claim to belong, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, if anybody needs it, it's the Black community. How about that?
Ooh.
Oh, man. If I could ask you to a question,
Go for it.
how would you all define black and blackness? I mean, what are your definitions?
You want to go first or me?
I honestly don't know what to say, to be completely honest with you. As far as that question, I'm not sure. I mean, it all just really feels like culture to me. I mean, it, to me, being a Black person is just, we're here, not by choice. We don't really know most of our history. We're just kind of winging it and coming up with who we are as we go. That's just really how I feel about it. So it would be a little hard for me to answer that question. Honestly, black to me is sadly the color black when people say that, in my opinion.
I'm gonna follow up with you on that with a question, but I'm gonna say my thing first. What I consider to be black, it's a lot like any other ideology, honestly. I don't necessarily see it to be a part of a person unless that person chooses to take on that label. So a lot of us choose to at a very young age, and then it's very hard to shake it. But a lot like what my wife said, it's a culture. It's like a cultural label. So with identifying as black, you identify with this cultural phenomena that the United States has created. So the United States brought a bunch of people over here, created a culture that would help facilitate the economic growth of the nation, and then relegated a group of people who share a particular phenotype to that economic position. Not only relegated the people to that position, though, but also attributed certain, I guess, psychological um, parts. I guess psychological. What would you call that? Psychological attributes to ensure that those people remained in that economic position. One thing would be like, you know, the Sambo archetype and how it has evolved and become, you know, you know, I guess at least up into the 90s, that black people are lazy and that kind of thing. It's like once you identify as black, you take all those attributes onto yourself. Um, so, but I do think it is a choice. It's not genetic. It's a construct that's completely social. It's a little hard to break, but it's a concept that you take onto yourself um, and choose to identify as. Just like you said, you don't consider yourself a part of Black community anymore.
This is true. This is true. You said you had a question though.
Yeah. When you say, baby, when you say like, sadly, you just see it as the the color black. What do you mean by that?
Well, I just mean just the color black is, I mean, it's black. It's dark. I mean, even looking at the color wheel, I don't think black is on that color wheel. What emotion would you compare to black? I mean, it's interesting that that's the color they chose to associate with our people and call us that. Like I like with SKC asking this question, I just kind of searched online to see what the definition of just blackness is, and it's saying the fact or state of belonging to any human group having dark colored skin. Like it's, I mean, there's not, they're not really saying anything else aside from that. So, you know, social construct like what you're saying, but just the color black, like it's like just nothing in my opinion, and that's sad. Sorry.
No, no. She, yeah, SKC. You also take this into consideration with my wife too. She's normal, so like where I answer questions and like have like I'm in and out of this space and a bunch of other spaces too. She is not. She's like pretty much as close to normal as you're gonna get.
So normal. Sorry.
No, no, that's fine. Um, yeah, it's just it's a weird phenomenon to me. This idea of black or blackness, I don't think it could really be defined. It means so many
You sound kind of far
things.
away. Could you get closer to the mic? I guess
Oh, is that better?
a little bit.
A little bit. Hold
You got a volume button on that thing?
on. Nah, is that better?
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. I think that whole idea of black or blackness, it's so subjective, and it means whatever it means to um, each person, um, according to their feelings. I don't think there could be a sound definition on it. Um,
You know, you know what's
and
interesting though? Before
oh,
you
go
go
ahead.
before you go forward, what's interesting though? What you're saying is, I think, is partly true, but at the same time, it's just like beauty. There is a like between people, there is a like slight difference in what one person would see as beautiful and what another person would see as beautiful. But
Hmm.
across the human spectrum, like there's certain things that is understood to be beautiful, like
Hmm.
symmetry, certain kinds of curves and shapes. Um, the or big eyes are generally seen as beautiful. It's like, yes, blackness is up to that person, but and this is what I find interesting about when people say blackness is not a monolith. I think it is. I think blackness is a monolith, but people who identify as black are not. So the blackness is a monolith in the sense that it has like a wide range of archetypes um, that people can find themselves identifying with or identifying to, and they choose to identify to those archetypes. Like a rapper might you know identify with a drug dealing archetype, but you know you know that archetype is like a standard. It's like a standard model. Like there's certain things in that archetype that that an individual person might take or leave, but there's still that standard model. So while yes, it is up to that person, there's still a cultural group consensus on what black is. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, huh. Okay. uh, Well, yeah, I will give you that one. There is a consensus, even if I believe that consensus has been kind of spoon fed to individuals, they still consent to it. So, but yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't claim to claim the moniker. If anybody would, just throw me into it, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I guess I can call me black in name only." But it, it, I, okay, another question. What if some of the positive attributes or features of blackness?
I only heard the last question. I don't know if you said more because my headphones went out. Did you say anything else?
Well, I was asking the question, what would you all say are some of the positive features or attributes of blackness?
What do you consider positive?
Well, that would be up to you all.
No, I mean, what do you mean when you say positive?
Well, I would say this. Say black culture. Culture is an agricultural term, right? And that agricultural term means to grow. You want to grow things and to where things bear fruit. So, what are some of the positive aspects of blackness or black culture that results in growth?
Okay. There's fellowship at the level of non-familial bonds. So, for instance, like, invites to the barbecue or whatever, if you're black anyway, you could just kind of walk in and, you do what you do. You know what I'm saying? There's not that level of camaraderie in a lot of American culture where you can just kind of just be a part of something without necessarily knowing who you are talking to. Another thing that kind of goes along with that is the I guess when people call strangers family. So like somebody could be your brother or cousin, and they actually have no real blood ties to you. But they're treated as though they are brother, cousin, uncle, sister, whatever. And that bond is treated almost as strong as family. If not exact, I would say it's probably equal to family in a lot of cases. I think that facilitates growth. Another thing I think facilitates growth. Well, I mean that's the biggest one that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, I can understand why you could say that would facilitate some vestiges of growth, but I see that as a great disadvantage.
How so?
Because those familial ties, I don't think should be just given to anyone without.
Oh, you dropped off. If you're still listening in the stream, it doesn't look like you are, but you dropped off. I'm not sure why you dropped off. I didn't do it. So, yeah, but I guess we'll just kind of free ball it in for a little bit until you come back. What you got? What you got, baby? What you got?
Well, as I mean, I'm really just piggybacking what you were saying about that kind of familial bond with Black people when we see each other, or things like that, uh that kind of knowing, that kind of look in the eye, like, yeah, it was good, like we kind of we have that. That's definitely a thing. But aside from that, I don't know. I don't know what else I could really add to it. But to circle things back, I guess, to what we were talking about initially, I kind of feel like, and I guess maybe I don't really know where the whole sexual market value thing originated. I mean, I know it comes from the red pill manosphere space and everything like that, but it's kind of giving very Anglo-Saxon slavery time vibes, just standing on the block before you're about to be sold kind of tease, like, just looking back at documentation of look, I'm just being real. Looking back at documentation of, slaves being sold, like the little banner saying, 18-year-old, ready to bear children, or hasn't born children, or things like that. Like it gives very, very that to me. So I mean, I don't know, like, where would you say the whole sexual market value kind of originated, if you know what I mean? Like, where would you say?
I'm not really sure. I don't remember where or who came up with the term. I'm sure BGS knows, but I, if you think about like what we were talking about before with economics and how you have to basically dehumanize people in order to make a profit. Um, in the sexual marketplace sense, it's not typically seen as trying to make a profit, like in the sense that you're getting money, but it is trying to get some kind of social or personal benefit from. So that would be the profit in this situation. So it's like I can see where you're going with that. I mean, um, yeah, so I personally wouldn't go as far as to say like it was like like slavery, but it's like
Yeah, but I mean, it still all just gives, it's all currency at the end of the day, even if it's social, like you have your, I guess, social rankings, just even in the red pill community or things like that. Like I don't know. It just all seems
transactional.
like it's a yes, it's just all very, very, very transactional, and it just makes me wonder where exactly it came from. Where did the idea come from for someone to really sit down and make a motherfucking chart, and you know so when she hits about 34, it's a wrap, and like things like that, like just who really decided they needed to sit down and do that, and to have conversations about it, and make it such a big thing now, because it's people are talking about it everywhere now. My friends, my friends, and stuff like that. I mean, we're now talking about things that people are talking about in the manosphere, casually, you know uh like the views that now, I guess, maybe the average man has always had about single mothers, or women who've been divorced, or women who get to a certain age, or women who look a certain way. Like, now we're having those conversations, and we hadn't had them before.
Yeah, I think it's good that those conversations are being had right now to a degree because I guess it's very easy to disregard what a man actually feels, especially in our society. like, because I guess men are kind of seen as an afterthought. So, I mean, even if you think about in the case of where like a lot of women are pursuing their careers, going to college, that kind of thing, and then like the family's like, yeah, when I'm ready, that's kind of the afterthought. So it's like it's good that there's actually like a man's thoughts are actually a good consideration now. I think that's a good thing that the red pill spaces has brought out. But it's like at the same time, going back to what you were talking about with the thing, it's like the sexual marketplace value, I think actually came from like extrapolation of data as far as that had already been like kind of pushed out, and some guys just kind of put two and two together. Like, so like before the space went the opposite of intellectual. There was a lot of there's a lot of stats kind of drawn out about like I guess industrialization and how industrialization has kind of taken as I guess as we moved into different phases of industrialization, the peak value for a man kind of shifted more to later years. So like, whereas like if you're on a farm in an agricultural society, a young man is needed because he's strong and he can do a lot of work. Like your sexual marketplace values kind of line up in the beginning in agricultural periods, and then as you get older it kind of falls off because men can't do as much work, that kind of thing. As machines got put into place, like doing physical labor kind of became kind of secondary, and then these I guess service jobs kind of started showing up more. And as more service jobs started showing up and women got involved in the workplace, it's like women's sexual market value didn't really change because what a man values in a woman stayed relatively the same. But now that a woman could, she didn't need some dude hauling hay or, plowing the field anymore to survive. She could basically go out into the service industry and survive on her own. Now, becoming well established in your career, which takes a lot more time, became a really big factor because you want to be the person that wins most of the money. So as these phases of industrialization came through and women got higher paying jobs, the man's age kind of pushed more off to later years, because the later in the man's career he is, the more money he's going to have and the more he's able to provide. Whereas, you don't really necessarily need him to survive anymore. So I guess women's perspective on trying to secure a guy who could provide for them didn't change, but what was considered to be providing for a woman now changed, because it's moved from physical labor to actually bringing in a lot of money. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I don't think it was a bunch of dudes like plotting like like in their basement and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, when you relate it to the way that society and the workforce has changed, then it does make a lot of sense as far as where it came from. But it's still just how heavily it's being highlighted now, listening to people in the manosphere talking about it, the rabbit hole that it goes down, as far as just dragging, women and they hit the wall and all of that. It just is very it has a lot of vitriol. It has a lot of just unexplained anger and disdain. And for me, it just is very, very on the slave block. Just anger, like it's something very, very sad and bad.
No, yeah, I get it. And like a lot of dudes are angry. I mean, they probably never admit it, but
Yeah.
a lot of
They
dudes are
may not
angry.
feel like they can admit it, and that's they may not even know they're sad and mad, and that's like I wanted to say that when you 2 were talking before, like, a lot of you all may not even know that the feelings that you have and stuff like that, like, where they come from, or that you're even feeling anything. You think that you're just operating the way that you should with your logic and your thoughts and your theories and things like that. But I do think that they are heavily influenced. I mean, it's the same thing with women too. You know, a lot of times we don't sit down and process uh the things that have happened to us, our past traumas and things like that. But I think a lot of it is feelings that they have not addressed.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's evident in the well, I think it's actually self-evident. It doesn't really require an explanation. You can look around and see that people are upset, and I think I don't think that it's a bad thing that they are upset. I think that there's a lot of good reason to be upset. There has been like, I mean, if we go back to the original version of what blue pill was, and not just like you simping or whatever, but the the original version of blue pill was kind of like you've been sold a fantasy. Like there's certain things that you've been conditioned to believe in your life, whether that be by the nation or by people in your family.
You said that's blue pill?
Yes, that the nation and people in your family, communities, whatever, kind of condition you to believe that life and relationships with women and women's nature are a certain way, and that you are to operate in a particular manner, basically be the nice guy, do what you know get the good job, and do everything that you're supposed to do by the book and all this kind of stuff, and that eventually women will see your value because whatever, and they'll fall at your lap because they see that you're a good guy, kind of thing. That's the dream a lot of guys have been sold. It's like, especially if you like go to a lot of women for advice, as a guy. I remember doing this when I was like in high school. They basically say, oh, just be yourself. It's like, well, that's not working. So
Oh,
no, it's like, I really understand why people would be upset. And then you got people who have actually gone through this stuff, you know, and they have had the veil actually lifted because, by force, after they've gone through, whatever relationships where, such and such was cheating on her or on him with her, with his best friend, or they've been
ooh,
married for 10 to 15 years, and then all of a sudden she decided she wasn't happy anymore, and she
she
took the
ran off with
kids
poop.
she took the kids in the house, and she got you kicked out because she accused you of beating her, even though you never lay a hand on her. Now you can't get in your house, you have to find a place to live, there's no men's shelter, she's keeping your kids from you, that kind of stuff. There's dudes that have been through that gauntlet, and uh the system perpetuates this kind of thing. And like, nobody cares if a dude's on the streets, nobody cares if a dude is getting hit in relationships with women, nobody cares anything about a dude. So like, I think, like you were saying earlier, that you're talking about this stuff with your friends like it's normal. I think that's a good thing, because like, um, there's a lot of reason for dudes to be angry. Like, they have been a lot of what it means to be a man is just to be used, and not even consider as a person. Like, what can you do for whoever? Like, what can you do for women? What can you do for women as a brother, as a father, as a husband? How can you provide for them? Like, what kind of ways can you bend yourself over backward for the government, for your job, for this, for that? Like, and it's very rare where there's a thought where it's like, well, what does he feel about that? It's more like, well, you're supposed to be you're supposed to be doing this, and if you have a complaint about it, then you're not a man, you know. So
Yeah.
so dude's got a lot of reason to be angry. But I think what would move this space forward is if they actually embraced that they are angry.
Yeah. Acknowledge it.
Yeah, because nothing's gonna come from acting angry and then saying you're not. Like, everybody can see it.
Yeah, I mean, being on the outside, looking in, listening when you are on other people's channels and listening to you talking to people. Yeah, you can hear the anger. I mean, you can hear that a switch did go off. I mean, of course, we don't know what they were like before, but there has to have been something that has switched things over. And it just kind of just brings things back to the point for me, like with it, we're saying, is a woman's value greater than her sexual market value? I mean, I- it seems to me like since men are making or creating this sexual market value to them, I don't think that a woman's value would be greater. I think that in a lot of these situations, they are so scorned and hurt, they don't really value uh, the presence of a woman in their life. Maybe that came from their mother. Maybe it came from, the people that were shaping them as they were growing up, and maybe most of those people were women. I'm just throwing things out there with that. But to me, the whomever came up with this sexual market value thing, to me, I do not think that they feel like a woman's value is greater as a person than her sexual market value. I don't think so.
I think if people do believe in that, or they believe that a person's sexual or a woman's sexual market value is her value, um, then they're operating from a survival instinct. Because from a survival standpoint, if you're like from a survival standpoint, your main objective, I guess, would be to make sure that you push the species forward. So that would be the priority that you would take. That would be the priority that you fixate yourself on. Um, and even in psychology, there are two methods of thinking. There's survival thinking, and then there's the learning thinking, or the ability to thrive. And in survival thinking, that's the kind of stuff you do. You operate from fear, uh, from trying to protect yourself, and you say, you try to leverage yourself into positions where you can't be taken advantage of. And that's just, that comes from trauma. Um, in fact, I do have something that actually explains that. Let me bring that up real quick.
Yeah, while you're bringing that up, I feel you. Like survival is probably maybe one of the I'm not quite sure what you necessarily called it. My normal brain doesn't necessarily fire off as quickly as your brilliant brain does, but it does seem like the red pill community, I think, in my opinion, is probably in some sort of survival mode with it, and I guess maybe that's what you were saying. I was getting to without the actual definition like you have. But yeah, like they're just kind of doing what's natural. They are pushing away um women, I think um inadvertently. They may not even realize it, but um yeah, if it's the main source of their pain, why why have them close? Why not just get what they need, uh, physically or whatever, and then go on about their business.
Yeah. Let me bring this up real quick. Hold on. So show a few things from this too. You got the inception thing going on here.
So it's like a switch
Can you
goes
hear it?
off in my brain. A switch goes off, and suddenly I can't really function, be, think, act, or feel the way I normally feel. It's almost like it's out of my control. And of course, I would get really strange looks, and people would be like, "What are you talking about, Michelle? Are you okay?"
So there she's explaining trauma. These are my notes here. She explains what trauma does, how it shows up. She says like a switch goes off and I'm starting to operate outside of my control. So what does your brain being in survival mode look like?
Good question.
What's the difference between so that you're notified of my next video that comes up? Okay, so what's the difference between your brain when it's just being and when it's stuck in survival? Let's first start with when it's just being. And as I'm describing this, think about, reflect on your life and think about if there was ever a time where you experienced this, okay?
Actually, let me jump to survival real quick since that's what we were talking about.
So this is brain would look and feel like. When your brain is stuck in survival mode, it is hyper focused on threat to the point that you cannot just be in a social situation. Your brain is constantly scanning for potential danger. So in essence, there's no real estate available in your brain to allow you to simply notice your surroundings in a relaxed and safe kind of way. It's very uncomfortable and outright triggering if someone has a different perspective than you. Let's say you did a good job on something, but a difficult or toxic person at work criticizes it. You suddenly lose the ability to hold on to your perspective if someone else has a different perspective. This is extremely obvious when it comes to your significant other. For example, if you're proud of yourself and your toxic significant other invalidates your success, your joy is suddenly popped like a balloon, completely deflated. You're unable to hold on to your high energy states when there is ambiguity. On an emotional level, you feel unsteady within, on the edge of panic, fearful of doing or saying anything wrong, or fearful of being judged by others. Your focus is hyper vigilant on yourself. It's almost impossible to learn new things. If anything, everything you learn seems to go in one ear and out the other because it seems difficult to retain new information. You strive for perfection due to fear of making a mistake, and you deeply dread being judged negatively. There's no confidence within. You doubt everything, even your own perceptions, your own thoughts, feelings, and reality. It's nearly impossible to make a decision unless someone else validates that that is the correct decision. Okay.
So yeah, a lot of this. Now it's important to note as well that it might not show up with every single symptom that she said, but if you can check off a bunch of them, then you know. Cause I guess I should say things operate in a kind of things don't operate. So I guess if you were to see this as I don't have every single one of those traits, then you're operating in the survival state. You see what I'm saying? Because a being state, you can take information and leave information, but in a survival state, it's like things have to be like this or that. Things are on and off. So it's like you see this a lot. You see a lot of this in the manosphere. People have to view things in a particular way, and anybody who doesn't is seen as a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah. a lot of the things that she was saying are states of mind that present themselves in the manosphere. And I'm saying when you operate with that kind of thing in mind, with that kind of state in mind, then it's very hard to. It's like you're setting yourself on a destructive path. Like there's only one static way that you can be, and and the crazy thing is, I think in Black culture, like sometimes we've been so triggered for so long, we don't know that we are triggered when we get triggered. So you're just so numb to being triggered, and it happens so often that you don't know you don't even understand that you're just reacting to things. You're just reacting to triggers. You're not really being yourself. You're not responding. And I think that's what we're seeing in the manosphere a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of harkens back to what you all were saying earlier, talking about animalistic reactions to things. Like it's giving very that. It's this is what they know to do. It's not even a thought beforehand. It's, oh, she got a little too much bass in her voice. She masculine, period. Like, and there's nothing else that am gonna think.
And even when it comes to the masculine stuff for men, so when dudes are trying to assess what's like, let's say a dude comes up on the panel and he starts talking about emotions, or he uses the word "I feel." Like a lot of people in the manosphere kind of take these words, like kind of key words, and they say if a person uses certain key words, then they are feminine. So it's like, yeah, exactly. Like you'll say, like, I feel blank. It's like, oh, you feeling why you in your feelings? You masculine? You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of stuff comes from survival mechanisms. That's not how your brain operates. Excuse me. When you're in a state of being. There's also something else I wanted to bring up. Let me find that real quick.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that there just really is no. I'm trying to think of the words to say it, but I guess like a spectrum of thoughts or reactions in this space. Like everything is just very cut and dry. It doesn't really seem to give or take anywhere for people to kind of be an individual person, in my opinion. For the women that they claim to like in this space, and the men as well. You all can't have feelings. You can't actually say you're angry. You can't say, this is where that came from. This is where this thought process came from because I felt like this about this or that. It's sad.
Yeah. Going into that a little bit, it's like, okay, when I got into PUA back in like 07, I said this earlier in the stream, but there is something called survival and replication, and I really want to bring that to the forefront because it really explains a lot of what's going on. Now, the guy that the book I read, he had a YouTube channel, but he took everything down from that. Now, I got those videos ripped on the computer, but I can't show you those. So I'm I'm going to go to a website of another guy that talks about survival and replication and just show you, I guess, how a survival mind thinks. And yeah, hold on one moment.
You said you got the videos ripped from the guy who wrote the book?
Yep, from his seminars.
Oh, wow.
So whenever I say value, I want you to understand that I'm not referring to intrinsic human value. I'm only referring to my perceived impact on my own survival and replication value. And as a matter of fact, we call this relative value. We don't call it absolute value. Okay, we all have some intrinsic human dignity, intrinsic human value. You know, like when I gave the example of the boss and the beggar, and the boss gave me a dirty look and it made me feel really bad. And the beggar gives me a dirty look and I don't feel anything. Well, I mean, aren't they both equal in the eyes of God? Like, aren't they both human beings with human dignity and so on? So how come I'm perceiving that that one has more value than that one? Okay? Because remember, I'm not actually determining that person's actual value. Instead, my brain is making the best calculation that it can on how that person impacts my value. The boss impacts my survival value. So I have an emotional response. Any social cues that I'm getting from him are going to cause me to have more powerful emotional responses because I perceive that it's more of an impact on my survival. Whereas a beggar, I'm getting, you know, some negative cue from him, some dirty look, and I don't get an emotional response because he doesn't have a very large perceived impact on my value. You know, what do I care for?
Now, babe, you already know not to play something I need to be listening to with a fire beat like that in the back. I could not listen. No, just kidding. It was hard. It was hard for me to listen because the beat was so fire.
No, it's important to point out what he was saying though. He said that there are two values. Now, if you let's say you don't believe in God, just remove the part of God out. So let's talk about nature. With your nature, like when we calculate a sexual market value based on looks, based on your assertiveness, personality, or swag, or whatever, there are multiple factors that go into your sexual market value. How much you earn, that kind of stuff. Whether you're socially awkward, all these things kind of factor into something that can calculate roughly where you would lie on the sexual market value scale. But the reason why that's relative is because, like he said, it's an emotional response. All that stuff that you're building, even if society completely agrees with what you're saying, is all in your head. It's all in your head. It's all in the intelligentsia, I guess, of the group consciousness of society. And you just agree with it. The only reason that it impacts you is that you agree with it. And whether you see one person has more hierarchical value in the social order than another, and how that impacts your personal survival state, is how a survival mind would see that. It's like, okay, I'm operating in my survival mind. Can that person with a lot of money affect my social standing? Will they be able to impact my life in a way that will harm me? But a person in a thriving mind doesn't really care about that. You see what I'm saying? So it's really a matter of perspective. There are multiple factors that can also go into your value as you perceive it in nature, because there are certain things that you can add to the human intelligentsia that can do what SKC was asking before, can send you on a path to growth, or can send culture in a path to growth, whether you have a bad day or not. Whether how you look can factor into that. The decisions that you make, whether to go outside at certain times or not. These are kind of things that you can't factor into the equation of of trying to establish a concrete value on somebody's human presence. But those kind of things do affect the larger nature of our society. Whether a person decides to step out today or not does affect the nature of culture. Whether a person decides to wear this or that does, because a person may perceive them in a certain way, which may perceive them to have a good or bad day. Whether a person has a good or bad day can affect many other people, even strangers in their lives. But those aren't things that you can calculate on the scale. But those things do matter. So there's a large swath of data that we could never factor into somebody's human value. But sexual market value is just one aspect of human value that we can get rough calculations for. This is why I say that they're two different things.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's at the end of the day, a person as a human being, their footprint, that they leave in the sand of just life and the world, and just the energy that is life, is it just means and matters. What means just matters so much more than just their sexual market value. That's pretty much what you're saying, right? And that's in a look they give a stranger who's having a bad day as they walk past them, or things like that. Yeah, I love that. And I think that is what the people who aren't in survival mode should focus on, instead of the way that this whole sexual market value thing makes you feel. Because I know that's a lot of what the conversations that I'm having with my friends are kind of rooted in, the way that it makes them feel to hear those things. Because some of them are single mothers, for different reasons, things that were out of their control and stuff like that, marriages they were in, things like that. So yes, I think if we can focus more on the footprint that we're leaving, the wave that we're making in the ocean of the world of life, I think we'd all be a lot better off, for sure.
No, I agree. And I guess the big part of that is, I mean, even if you just completely disregarded everything I said, let's take somebody who's on the verge of suicide, and they're feeling pretty crappy about their day. Just one person showing that person an act of kindness can change the trajectory of that person's literal life.
Right.
And that's not something that you can calculate into, first of all, you can't calculate that into sexual market value. And second of all, you can't calculate that into the value that person has as a human being, because then maybe that one act of kindness meant nothing to the person who did it, and maybe they didn't even see it as an act of kindness. So, there's certain things that you really, really can't calculate. Like, even as hard as we could try as human beings to calculate every single thing, and to determine, how we can move and protect ourselves and, affect people in whatever ways. There's certain things that you just can't draw a number to. And how a person exists in the world is one of those things. But it has an indescribable, immeasurable amount of impact, especially on the human footprint, like you were saying. So I think it's really important for people to understand that when you say a person doesn't have value as a human being because they don't offer anything sexually, I think it's really reductionist.
I agree 100%. I mean, I hate to keep saying the same points over and over, but I mean, it just it's very, it's it just really reduces people to property. Or look, I mean, it does. Like, what else can you relate it to? The word value, you know what I mean? It makes someone cattle, a thing to be bought and sold, and that's men too. Shoot, I'm not just talking about women. Giving someone a value, I think it's counterproductive, personally.
Mm-hmm. I got another clip in here. I marked this. I don't know why I marked it, but I did. So let me bring it up. And
You marked it because you're you.
oh, thank you. And we'll see why I marked it. We'll learn together why I marked this.
So if I say that a chick is high value, meaning that she's attractive, that means that she gives other people more emotional reactions. I'm going to be more nervous around her. Another chick might feel more threatened around her. Okay? If a chick is low value, say that she's classically unattractive, she's overweight and ugly or whatever that we consider unattractive, Okay? That doesn't mean that she has no value as a person. She's still a human being. She's still a person. But she causes fewer emotional reactions in those around her. So it's funny. Here we are so early in the seminar. And I'm bringing you to probably what is the most profound truth in pickup, which is that the way that people react conveys their perception of relative value. If a hot chick walks by and she gets some cat calls, you guys are like, hey, baby. What does that tell her? Oh, they're reacting to me. They want me. They perceive me as high value. See what's going on here? So at one step I said, well, if you perceive some level of value, you're going to have an emotional response that's proportionate to that. The next step is, well, wait a second. That means if people are having emotional responses, then that's betraying their perception of value. It's like they're showing their hand. When I say, hey, baby, hey, sweet thing, to some cute girl walking by,
It's the glasses for me.
You stupid. But yeah, he's about to get into the I guess the manipulation part of pickup. But yeah, so the point of that, but the point of me showing that was to show you the audience, not you, but to show you that you know, the part that people are seeing as the real truth, the societal part that people are seeing as the real truth is not actually the real truth. These are all emotional responses to certain stimuli that people are perceiving. So you know, going back to this chart thing here. If this is society, this is like the information, the environment that society draws its information from. And just because people in society in this level here are perceiving things and reacting to things in certain manners, it does not mean that they are reacting to the actual truth on the outside that is you know, consistent with the environment. Like, yeah. So you're hungry.
Yes.
And it's late, and I don't want to risk talking longer and waking up our son.
Right.
Hopefully, well, we plan to do this again, and I'll have my information all up in a row, ducks in a row, and we will have a little bit of a format to this next time. But this was fun.
So much fun. I was very nervous in the beginning. Thank you so much, SKC, for coming up. It really helped us out here. We really, really, really appreciate you.
Yep. You know, we didn't have a real format this show, and you know, I apologize about that. But next show, I do promise you that it's only up from here. So.
Yes, Lord.
Yeah. So that's the show. Thanks for anybody who watches this in the future, and yeah, if you stick around for the 2 hours and almost a half, then good on you. But
Okay.
yeah, maybe the next show I'll have a length that we go to as well. Maybe I don't really see a point of going longer than an hour and a half. So yeah, I think that'll be the duration of this. But yeah, okay. So let's get something to eat and tell everybody bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening. Take care.
See ya.